If you're truly committed to taking your guitar playing to a high level, and you're putting in the necessary practice time, but still not seeing measurable results, it might be because you're biting off more than you can chew at one time. As a musician, it's incredibly important to focus your attention on learning one thing at a time and learning it well enough to be able to apply it musically. Many guitar players may recognize the importance of this approach, but fail to take their channeled focus one step further and break that one thing into bite-sized chunks. Sitting down to learn an entire solo is daunting and sometimes downright overwhelming. When you overtax your brain, the likelihood of you learning something effectively decreases significantly. Every time you practice something, the goal is to communicate to your brain that each and every skill that you learn on the guitar is important enough to store in long-term memory. If your brain hasn't moved a concept or a thought process into long-term storage, it can't automate it for you. Think about how foreign driving felt when you were first learning to drive a car. Once you proved to your brain that you were serious about learning how to drive, it began to automate the process of driving for you. I bet now you don't even think about driving when you do it. You just, do it. This level of automation is what we want. We want you to get so good at each skill on the guitar that your brain doesn't need to spend energy thinking about the mechanics of doing it. It just does it for you. Trying to learn too much of one thing at a time overtaxes your brain and decreases the likelihood of successfully sending this newfound pattern to long-term memory. If you find yourself consistently spending hours practicing a song or skill, but not being able to play it well, or even remember it days later, chances are you're not breaking what you're learning down into small enough pieces. Say you're working on a solo. What you want to do is break that solo into sections, even measures, and only focus on practicing that first section until you can play it perfectly every single time. Once you've mastered the first section, move on to the next section and master that one too. Use this bite-sized strategy to move through the entire solo, one section at a time. If both the right-hand part and the left-hand part are challenging, don't be afraid to work on each hand's part separately, and only after you can nail each part separately do you then practice them together at the same time. When you break things into smaller chunks, I can almost guarantee that you'll be able to play that solo 10 times more effectively than if you tried to force your brain to learn the entire thing at one time. The more that you practice this method, the faster you'll get at learning individual pieces, assembling them like Lego blocks, and teaching your brain to automate them. Now that we've talked about the importance of breaking songs, skills, and techniques into smaller bite-sized pieces, I'm going to teach you the secret to mastering those pieces quickly and effectively. After I teach players how to break things down into smaller bites, their tendency is to practice those sections at a tempo that is way too fast. It's easy to watch a lesson from your favorite instructor and become tempted to learn it at the tempo that they're using to demonstrate the song, skill, or technique. Keep in mind that practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So when you try and learn things at too fast of a tempo, you're actually cementing those mistakes that you are inevitably making into your memory. Not good. In order to become skilled at quickly mastering those small pieces, you have to practice them a lot slower than you might think you need to. Using a metronome is very helpful and will teach you how to play it in time. Remember, your goal is to master the small piece before you speed it up or move on to learning the next piece. Once you become skilled at playing each piece slowly and your brain has memorized the pattern perfectly, it's time to speed things up a bit. The trick to getting good enough to automate a process on the guitar is to put in enough repetitions so that you can play something mistake-free at a much higher tempo than you really need to. Being able to play a song that is normally at 110 BPM at 130 BPM makes it seem really easy at 110. This is what I call headroom, and it is vital to your success as a guitar player. Headroom isn't just about speed, it's about mastery. When you know you can play any skill or technique much faster than you need to, you then have the confidence necessary to start playing real music. This mastery is what will allow you to perform at a skilled level even when factors like nerves or sweaty hands are vying for your attention. Headroom gives you the freedom to play with the emotion needed to create a truly memorable performance. Once you break a larger project down into smaller pieces and then master those pieces, it's time to focus on the finer details. Are you fretting your chords clean? Are your picking dynamics even across each string? Are you playing each note at the same volume? These are all details that should be considered and addressed when you're taking a specific skill, song, or technique to a high level. Once you feel like you've perfected the granular details, it's time to take out your phone and film a short video of you playing it. You might find that when the red light is on, you have a harder time playing it at the same level that you've been practicing it. You're also going to notice that it doesn't sound nearly as good as when you were playing it. This is normal. This is why we're doing it. When you make recording yourself a consistent part of your practice, you'll quickly become more comfortable with it, and you'll be amazed at what you learn from this great feedback tool. Feedback from other guitar players is also a critical component to taking your guitar playing to the next level because it provides a different perspective from your own. If you're struggling with your technique, you're not really making music. You're essentially still practicing as you're playing. When you become skilled enough to automate the process, you'll be able to connect with the other musicians that you're playing with and ultimately with your audience. When you're able to connect, you're not just a guitar player anymore. You're a musician.